Alice looked up at the sleeping adult from the foot of the chair. Most of the other children weren't really paying attention to her, and it was just as well because they would have only gotten in the way. Carefully, Alice untied the woman's shoes, and then tied the laces from both shoes together. It was slow going, as Alice was getting larger, but still had to contend with rather short and stubby fingers. When Alice was done, she giggled to herself and admired her handiwork. "Now to get out of here," she said. She crawled back to the door and was almost there when her arms and legs were gripped with a particularly painful set of muscle contractions. Alice lost her control and fell to the floor, yelping in surprise. She watched as her fingers grew bigger and longer, and her arms stretched out like vines reaching for the sunlight. Her cry had awakened the babysitter. She looked around and saw Alice out of her crib. "Come here, you." She stood up and stepped towards Alice. Her feet jerked forward, but not in the full range of motion she'd expected, and the nanny ended up falling to the ground. Alice, in the meanwhile, was back on her hands and knees and crawling for all she was worth. She reached the door and stood up, ready to bolt from the room. She stopped short, however, as a loud tearing sound captured her attention. Alice looked down and was surprised to see that the seams on the side of the sleeper had ripped. A tear of almost 3 inches showed on either side, starting just above Alice's diapers. "It's too late to worry about that now," said Alice. She ran from the room, with the now shoeless nanny close behind. Alice made her way down the hall, and she could feel the tears growing larger with each kick of her legs. The nanny was coming up very quickly, as Alice's legs were shorter, and the ill-fitting garment was hampering her mobility. As Alice began to descend the stairs, she saw the seams had split almost completely down the sides, making her diapers readily apparent to anyone who looked. The crotch had also begun to tear, as well as the sleeves. As she got to the bottom of the stairs, Alice tripped and landed on all fours. A loud sound from behind her told Alice that the inseam had given way, and Alice decided to cut her losses on the sleeper now. She quickly tore the split sleeper in half, her muscles too much for the weakened fabric. The result was that the sleeper now began just above Alice's ever-growing navel, covering her chest and her shoulders. Alice was bare from the waist down, save the cloth diaper with the disposable beneath, and that too was beginning to get uncomfortably tight.